All right.
Welcome to show number 10, the Y.E.S show number 10. We're here with our special guest, Joey, and
Joey Dressler. Yeah, we have Joey Dressler with CrossFit Yuma, and Joey's my coach, and he grinds on me all the time, and he's mean to me. No, I'm just kidding. He's a great coach over here at CrossFit Yuma, just right across the street. And again, I say this every show. I sent a text to Joey and said, hey, would you want to be on the Y.E.S show and share your story? And without any hesitation or delay, absolutely, I want to be there. I want to share my story. So
awesome.
Thanks, Joey.
Appreciate you being here, Joey.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
And so, so
let's get started. Yeah.
So mine.
What'd you learn this week?
Yeah. So mine is kind of it's a quote / story, and it kind of relates to some of the shootings and things like this that we've had in our in the world, in our country. So there's a story about this guy that owns a gas station. The family comes in, and they're moving into town, and the family asks the guy that owns the gas station, he says, hey, what kind of people are here? What kind of community is this? And the guy that owns the gas station says, he's like, well, what kind of community did you come from, and what kind of people were there? And the people said, well, it was a terrible community, and the people were just generally just jerks and not very nice. And he's like, well, I assume that's probably the kind of people and the kind of community you'll find this to be. Half an hour later, another family comes through that's moving into town. They ask him the same question, and the guy in the gas station guy says, well, what kind of people and community did you come from? And those people said, oh, it was a wonderful community. The people there were amazing. We just had to move for other reasons, and we loved our community. And the guy that owned the gas station said, well, those are generally the kind of people you're going to find here, and it's the kind of community that you're going to find this to be. And so how this relates to the shootings and such, and I'm going to make this as brief as possible, is yes, there's the averages that happen in the world. There's bad things that happen, but you have to believe and you have to focus on the good. There's a hell of a lot more good that's happening in this world than bad. There's a heck of a lot more good that's happening in this country than bad. And just like the people that go to the gas station, what you focus on is what you're going to get. And so, yes, we need to pay respects to the people that have lost their lives, and we need to deal with the underlying issues. But we need to be positive and focus on all the abundance and all of the blessings that we have, especially in this country. And
Absolutely.
so that's kind of my story. And
yeah, to add to that, yes, and I know there's a lot of bad things happening, but if you do focus on that, in my office I have a TV, and I usually keep it off. But once in a while you hear, hey, did you hear what this is happening, that's happening? So you don't want to be a person where you're like in a shell and you don't know what's going on.
mm-hmm.
But then I turned it on, and I left it on for a day, and then I turned it on the following day too, and it's at Fox News, and man, I'm starting to get depressed because they just focus on the negative and the negative. And I also wanted to know what's going on with the election and things, but man, they just catch wind on the story and they
mm-hmm. focus
on it, and for those people who just focus on media and news, I mean, it's a recipe for disaster.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Joey, do you want to share with us what's been going on? You have a quote or a story or something you want to share with us today?
There's two things I'll share with you that I'd like to share. Kind of one, impromptu, just listening to you guys talk about everything that's been happening and the shootings and things. It reminds me of something from my childhood. When I was younger, my dad had this quote. It's rather long. It's about a page typed out, and it's called Desiderata, or Desiderata.
How do you spell that? Do you know? I'm just kidding.
I memorized it, but not the spelling. Anyway, he challenged me when I was a kid to memorize this. Like I said, it's rather long, but he said he'd give me $100 if I memorized it. And so as a kid, that was a lot of money, and I definitely wanted to do that. So I memorized it, and I'm not going to recite the entire thing here, but it starts out, it says, "Go placidly amid the noise and the haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence." And it just goes on, but at the end, what kind of stands out with what you guys are telling me, it says, and remember, with all the shame and drudgery in the world, of all the bad things that are happening, it's still a good place. And that just kind of stands out with what you guys are talking about, mm-hmm. and the bad things that there's still a lot of good out there. There's a lot of great people, and I think there's always going to be bad apples in our society on regardless of where they come from or where they're at or what their place is in life. But it's still a good world. And there's a lot of good things out there to be positive about.
Absolutely. There is.
And just a quote, like something that I really enjoy, that kind of drives me in the business world, in my personal life, and professionally, is a quote from Roosevelt. It's called "The Critic," and it talks about it's not the critic who counts, it's not how the doer of deeds could have done better, or how the strong man stumbled, and again, it's rather lengthy. I'm not going to go into it, but basically the credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by sweat and dust and blood. And we shouldn't be overly concerned with those outside that are criticizing our performance or our efforts, but we should focus on our own efforts and what we're doing, and really just kind of give praise and motivation for those efforts that people put out.
Absolutely. I'm familiar with that quote. I love that.
That's
quote.
Great quote.
And it ties into, we've talked about in multiple episodes, is the idea of failure. And generally people look at that as a negative thing.
Right.
And failure to us, to the community that we have here with the Y.E.S program, is inspiration.
Right.
It's motivation. It's, I'm going to be better. This is what I need to work on. It identifies your weaknesses and it helps you grow. And I love it. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's a great. And in that quote, it talks about failure, and it says, there is no effort without failure. And anyone that's putting themselves out there and trying and challenging themselves is going to come up short at some point. But that doesn't define us, and that's not who we are. We continue to persevere and move beyond that.
Absolutely, love it.
Right. Yeah, we can talk about that all day long, right? Well, let's get into the interview. I'll start first, Joey. Tell us about your upbringing. Where'd you grow up? How was your upbringing with your parents? Where were you born?
Sure. I was born in Fresno, California. I lived there until I was about 2, and then we moved to Modesto, California, which is where I grew up. I graduated high school there in Modesto, California, and my upbringing really come from a very kind of a lower middle class, very blue collar family. My parents both worked very hard, and I remember probably most times during my life, during my childhood, both my parents were working 2 jobs, and so they both worked very hard. A lot of times they'd have the typical Monday through Friday 9 to 5, and then they would have a second job in the evening, or would work on the weekends as well. And so I kind of grew up with that perception of hard work, that nothing was handed to us, that we had to go out and earn and achieve on our own, and regardless of what our circumstances were. And
were you the oldest, or do you have siblings?
No, so I have one older brother. He's about 3 years older than me, and but we had a large extended family. And so my parents divorced when I was about in 4th grade, and my family really came together. We had a really close family. Most of our family lived in the same town, and in fact, at one point there was 3 families. My grandparents and 2 of my aunts and uncles all lived on the same street.
Oh, wow.
And so we would gather at my grandparents' house growing up, and so I had a lot of cousins and aunts and uncles and everyone that really kind of shaped my upbringing and my outlook on life. As I said, my parents worked very hard. They did what they could for us, but there wasn't a lot to give. There wasn't a lot of money. We didn't have a lot of resources, and so my brother and I, from a very young age, had to work for everything we had. And we did everything from paper routes to going out and mowing lawns around the neighborhood. Anything we could do just to kind of earn a little bit of spending money as kids. And we had some odd jobs. There was other people in my family that were entrepreneurial. I had an uncle that was an electrician. He had an electrical business. Another that was a roofer that had his own roofing company. And so, I had opportunities growing up. Another close family friend that was a contractor. And so we had opportunities growing up to help them and, you know, get out and do, you know, we weren't skilled workers by any means, but, you know, just
start off digging ditches.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just a lot of general labor and helping out when we could. And
now, were you always an athlete? Did you play sports in school? Or?
I did play sports growing up. Yeah, I guess you could say I was athletic. You know, I was never a star athlete, but I did everything from track and field to baseball, football. In high school, I was on the diving team. I did diving through high school. And so, yeah, I was definitely very involved. I was really involved in martial arts and things when I was younger as well.
Okay, and what attributed to that? Were your parents an influence to that, or you just naturally got into sports?
You know, my parents encouraged us to do things, you know, to kind of push us. They never forced us to do anything, but I think more so it was my own drive. Like I really liked challenging myself, and I found sports as a way for me to kind of challenge myself and push myself. And so it was an avenue for me to be physically active and just kind of occupy my time with something useful and challenging. I really enjoyed that aspect of it.
Setting the goals and meeting them and raising the bar.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely, that's awesome. So as far as education, you know, can you kind of talk to? I mean, you obviously worked hard, so you had real life education. You went through a divorce, your parents divorced, so that's definitely something I went through as well. That's a bit of a real life education of sorts. And so, how about that? You know, you've got the real life education, School of Hard Knocks, some will call it, and then how about formal education?
Yeah, so formal education, I don't have a degree. I never completed it. I graduated high school, and I'll kind of come back to that, what happened after high school. But you know, at the time, I wasn't motivated to go to continue in school. I really. I was going to have to pay for it on my own. I was going to have to pay for college on my own. My brother, you know, is older than me. He was working his way through college. He's paying his own way and doing that. And, you know, at the time, I wasn't into it, and having to pay my own way through it was not something that I wanted to do when I got out. And so, but as I got older, you know, that changed. Obviously, my mindset changed. I went back to college. Never completed it. I have a bunch of credits, and but nothing that's ever been finalized. But I've gone to a lot of kind of formal, like, certificate classes, seminars, ongoing continuing education that I've kind of put myself through and had the opportunity to do. And then one thing I've always been is a very avid reader, and so I've always kind of educated myself, so to speak, like taken on, you know, topics and things that if I wanted to understand it, or if I wanted to have a better grasp of the subject matter, that I would go out and I would read several books on the topic and just kind of educate myself and formulate my own opinions. And so that's kind of where my education is. And then, you know, kind of coming back to what I mentioned out of high school, you know, education wasn't for me. And at the time, I mentioned kind of working, you know, I got my first real job when I was 14 years old. And it was actually the day of my 14th birthday. It was Mother's Day. My older brother had a job in a restaurant, and Mother's Day is a very busy day in restaurants, and so where he was working, they were super busy, and they needed some additional help. So he called me and said, "Hey, can you come down and help bus tables, wash dishes? We need some help." So I said, "Sure." So I strapped on my rollerblades at the time, and I skated down to the restaurant and worked a shift there. It was the day I turned 14, and turned into a job. And so I was 14. I was in 8th grade. I was the only kid that had a job, and I worked a little bit during the week and on the weekends, and bussing tables, washing dishes, and I eventually kind of worked my way up. I worked at that same restaurant all through high school. And once I graduated high school, they made me an offer to take over a store, to take over a location as a general manager of it in another city. And so that opportunity kind of presented itself to me right after high school, and I jumped on that.
Oh wow.
Wow. And then after the restaurant business, what did you do after that?
So after the restaurant business, I managed a restaurant for a while. I really enjoyed that. I've always been passionate about cooking and kind of the restaurant business, and even to this day, one of these days I'd like to still open a restaurant. But after that, I went on and got into law enforcement and got into federal law enforcement and moved around with that. Did that for a while, moved around, and that's kind of eventually what brought me around back to Yuma.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Awesome.
Well, you're in Yuma.
Yeah.
Tell us how right now CrossFit Yuma. How did that come about?
So CrossFit Yuma came up as a combination of two passions of mine. So I'm very passionate about challenging myself, as I mentioned earlier, with sports, and so I've always been physically fit and try to keep myself in good shape. And so when I first learned about CrossFit and started kind of doing it on my own, I found it as a great medium to express different elements of fitness and kind of bring it all together and then test myself and challenge myself in several different ways. And so I was doing that, and then my other passion, something that I really kind of I think kind of defines my life now, is helping other people. I really enjoy helping other people, and I really enjoy seeing other people succeed in their life. I enjoy seeing other people reach their goals. And so those two things, my kind of passion for fitness, my passion for seeing other people succeed and other people achieve their goals, kind of came together into CrossFit Yuma. And so we had an opportunity, Yuma didn't have anything like it at the time. And so it just started very small, very organic, and just kind of training people one-on-one on my own, just kind of helping people, and it just slowly started to grow. And we eventually affiliated with CrossFit. We became officially open CrossFit Yuma in 2011. We were the first CrossFit affiliate in Yuma, and the original, and it just kind of grew from there. It just kind of spiraled and snowballed and grew to where we are now.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So when you did the plan to open up the business, you said it grew organically. Was it your dream to say, hey, I want to have like a full onboard gym? Did you have those goals, or did it just like grow organically and people started bringing other people, and then it kind of just opened on? What I'm trying to get to is, with your mindset, did you want to grow that big, or did it just happen naturally?
It just happened naturally. It wasn't my intent when we set out to grow it into the business that we have today. I do everything 100% of my effort, and I want to be successful in everything I do. Mm-hmm. And so I naturally kind of pushed myself to grow. And when we started out, it started out really as a hobby, to be honest, and it's something that I was passionate about. I enjoyed doing. It was a good way to kind of occupy some of my free time, and share what I love with other people, and kind of help other people achieve goals they have in their life as well. And it started small, and it was just as a hobby, and it just started growing, and people started inviting their friends, started bringing their family, and really we've grown to where we are now just through that, with really no advertising to speak of, no commercial advertising, just word of mouth, friends and family, bringing people in and sharing their experience and the results that they're having, and it just continued to grow and gain popularity. And there came a point where it was occupying more and more of my time, and some of the decisions and the things that we had to make.
Some of the growing pains. The
growing pains, absolutely. And it was looking at it and saying that, okay, this is no longer a hobby, it's a business. Mm-hmm. And now I have to make decisions to grow the business. And, it's not just for my own benefit, to occupy time, but now it's a business. And so we have to kind of look at it from that perspective and make decisions. run it in that fashion.
That's awesome. And so one thing that you always find with people and that are very successful is what they do is a passion for them. And so it's taken me, just speaking for me, it's taken me a while to find what makes me excited. And what I look at when I come to work every day, I don't look at it like, oh, I'm here to clock in some hours. I feel like it's my duty to fill those vacant buildings. Like, I love it. It's like, I mean, it feeds me. And that's what I hear from you is this, the reason it grew from a hobby to what it is to now is because people see that. I mean, you go there and you go and work out, and it's not like any other gym. I mean, you can feel the positive. I mean, people. I've never been to a gym where you're working out and you have people you don't even know behind you. Come on. I mean, and that's the environment that you've created through that passion. It's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you for that. And that's really what it brings, because there's a lot of ways people can work out. There's a lot of places people can go, but and I think that's one of the things that really separates us from other people is that passion, that community. I genuinely care about every single person that walks through that door, and I just want to pour myself into them and help them achieve what it is. I genuinely want them to achieve their goals, and so it's very rewarding for me to see that, and to see people grow and see people develop and change, and not only physically but mentally. And that's one of the aspects that's great is, it's not only people's physical bodies change, they get stronger, they get leaner, they get healthier, but mentally I love seeing people grow to where they say that, I can't do that, or that's too difficult, to one day that they're overcoming that, and they lose that mindset, they lose that self-doubt, and they gain an air of confidence and self-esteem that is very hard to build, especially as we get older. We don't put ourselves out there and we don't challenge ourselves, and so seeing people gain that aspect, that mental toughness, is something that I love. I love seeing. And when we talk about the passion, you talk about seeing people succeed because they're passionate about what they do. As just kind of a word for people listening too, entrepreneurs or people considering going into businesses. That passion can also be a detriment too. You have to learn to balance that passion and that energy with other areas of your life, and your family and other priorities as well.
And that's a fine line to walk, because sometimes the family needs are more demanding and require more of your time, and you do have a pretty large family, right? You want to kind of tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So been married about over 16 years, and my wife and I have 6 kids, and they're aged from 15 down to twin 5-year-olds. And so we're very busy at home as well. Yeah. And so we've been very blessed. I mean, we have a great family, and I love it. I love every minute of that, and that's part of the challenge of running a business and trying to balance your personal life, the energy and the passion you have for what you do, and then the needs and the demands that you have from the family as well. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very challenging to keep all that. And then also, I want to go back on that, and I know these interviews are just rolling out. There's so much that we can cover. But you're talking about being mentally tough, and we've been noticing that most of the entrepreneurs that we've interviewed, they do something to where it's uncomfortable. I don't think just because of the physical aspect, but because of the mental aspect. And then one of the things that you said you've been wanting to ask is, how do you keep up with how do you keep up with you're in pain and you just want to quit, but you keep going. And one of the things that we ask everybody is about failure. So when we ask you the question, and I know this has to do about entrepreneurship, has to do either your business, something physically, something with your personal job, something with your your kids and your 16-year-old marriage, what's the biggest failure you ever had to overcome that you can think of that you could give us advice on how you overcame it?
Oh man, that's a good question. There's always ups and downs in life. I don't like to look at things as success or failure necessarily. And I'm not trying to paint like this, this rosy picture, and say that there's no success or failure. There absolutely is. For me in my own life, there's certainly been times where I've come up short from a goal that I've set or something that I've wanted to do. I didn't quite achieve the level or reach that point that I wanted, but I don't look at it as a failure. I don't call it a failure. I think that it's just another step in the process. Until I say that I'm done, I haven't failed. And so if I keep pushing myself and I keep moving forward, then I haven't failed. I might not reach that goal as quickly as I want, but I don't view it as a failure. And so that helps shape me and helps drive me that I don't accept failure as an option. I continue to push forward, and if I have to change my plan, I'll change my plan. If I have to reevaluate where I'm going, then I'll do that. But I don't look at it and just say, I failed, I'm done, and move on to something else. I like to pursue it until I achieve that goal. And
how about in your business? Have you ever wanted to throw in the towel and say, man, this is just too difficult? Or it didn't really happen?
There's certainly been times where I've felt overwhelmed, with my family and work and just the amount that I take on. Sometimes I have a hard time saying no to people. And I want to, like I said, I want to help people. I want to say yes to everybody. And sometimes I say yes too much. And I take on too much. And there's certainly times where I feel overwhelmed and I kind of question, what, if this is how I want to continue, should I scale back? Should I cut this out? Should I not do this? And luckily, I have a great team around me, my wife, my people in my business, and just the team that I've built to really lean on my faith. I'm very strong in my faith and active in the church. I'm a pastor at our church as well, at the Vertical Church here in Yuma, and so I rely on those people, and I think it's a great point that you bring up that we have those moments where you feel overwhelmed, where you feel tired, where you kind of feel beat down. Everything's kind of going against you, and you need to have that support system around you. And no one's going to be as passionate and as driven as you are, the one that starts the business or the one that takes on that project. But it's really important that you build a team of people around you, and I have great people around me that help support the business, CrossFit Yuma, people that support me in my faith and in my family, and
they have that passion.
Absolutely,
they are definitely. The coaches there are definitely passionate.
Absolutely, and so I think that's a key piece is just to remember to build a good team around you and lean on them and support each other.
Do you have a coach or a mentor?
I don't have one specific mentor that I would say. I think there's several people that I look to in different areas of my life and different aspects, and I try to pull from all of them. I think there's always something to be learned from everybody, some good, some bad, but you can take lessons from everyone. And so there's people that I have in my life that I look to and I draw on their strength in certain areas, and I learn from them and kind of study what they do in business and spiritually and professionally and in family life. And so I kind of, again, have my team of mentors, so to speak, that I look to and pull.
That's huge. I mean, surrounding yourself with those kinds of people, and like we started off in the beginning, you have positive people, positive atmosphere.
Right.
Yes, there's still things that are going to happen that are bad, but would you rather be surrounded by those people or just be watching the news all day, right?
Yeah.
Right, and that reminds me of another quote. We're talking about quotes, but it says you can't have a positive life and a negative attitude. And so, you know, you got to look at things, keep things in perspective, and you know, I try to fill my life with positive people, and just try to live a positive life, you know, and keep a good outlook on things.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
the something that I kind of want to dig into a little bit more, and I warned you before we started recording. So I'll paint the scenario and this was for the qualifying rounds for the CrossFit Open, right? Is
Yes,
that
sir.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
And so Joey's in the gym, and he's working out, and I don't quite remember what exercise he was doing, but I can remember the pain and the grimace in his face. And there's probably 5 or 6 of the students and coaches around cheering Joey on, and you can see the pain and grimace in his face, though. And that, what I want to know is what's going on in your head. Because I know for you know, when I do some of these Spartan races, there's, you know, we did the sandbag carry in one of them, and I'm halfway up the thing, and I'm like, why in the hell am I doing this?
Yeah.
And that's the mental battle. Oh, you could easily quit.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
tell me, because I really want to know what's going on in your mind at that point.
Yeah, you know, that those are special moments, you know, that time, and I think those are defining moments, you know, that really build character in people and really are telling about their mental outlook and kind of where they're at. And I really enjoy those in some kind of sick way, you know, like again, I really like pushing myself. And so in those times when I see like how far can I go, like how far can I take my body, or how far can I take my mind, you know, I try to be positive in my own head and tell myself what I want to do. Like I have to encourage myself mentally, and so I try to block out, especially in these workouts, you know, like your body aches, your muscles are burning, you're gasping for air, you want to stop, you want to take a breath, and I just try to reiterate to myself, you know, that you can do it one more rep. And I think what's real important is that attitude, that kind of one more rep, like just do one more, just do one more, is a good analogy for life. You know, that the more difficult the task, the shorter our focus needs to be. The more difficult the task, the narrower our goal needs to be. You know, instead of saying in a workout, man, I have 5 minutes left, or I have to go another, or I have to do X amount more, I just think one more, or just get through this, and then when I get through that, I set my next goal. This is what I'm going to do. And so I just try to push myself, you know, in those workouts, in that way, and just try to tell myself just one more, just hang on, just one more, and you know, that attitude of not giving up. And the way I look at it in my head sometimes is not how much did I get done or how much did I do, but I evaluate my performance on how I did mentally. Like, did I give up on myself? Did I give up before I should have? Did I stop when I should have kept going? Did I listen to those voices, those naysayers in there saying, you can't do this, you need to stop, or you're not good enough for that? And so I evaluate my performance on how that was in my head, and did I overcome those mental challenges, you know, and did I push hard enough? Did I not give in to failure? You know, did I continue? And so,
man, you can apply that to your business so much.
So much. I was thinking the same thing right now. It's so true. It's you know, picking up that phone and make a cold call, or driving by and dropping off a brochure to a business, or that, oh, well, they're gonna say something, or they're gonna think that I'm a 2-bit salesman, or you know, I mean, all these things in your mind, and none of it, you know, none of it's true, you know.
Yeah.
And I actually think that there's an opportunity for someone to write a book on the analogies of performance, athletics, in that capacity, by pushing yourself in business. And there's a gentleman that I work for in Tucson, very successful real estate developer, and the guy competed in 6 or 7 Ironman triathlons in Kona. I interviewed him kind of similar to this, and I wanted, what does it take to be successful, and talk to him. And here's what he said, physical activity, pushing yourself. And I see that. There is a definite relationship between being successful in business and having that physicality or that desire to push your body too. Because there's just such a direct relationship there. And,
I definitely agree. It's the mental side of it, and the drive and determination, I think, is the same. Mm-hmm. And it's just, it manifests itself in different ways in different people in their own lives and what they choose to pursue. And some people, put that into physical activity. Some people put it into business or family or whatever it may be. But that drive, I think, is very similar.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Awesome.
Well,
what do we have?
I think we have one more question.
Yeah.
And
so because we kind of hit on, got a pretty good idea of what you're passionate about. You're passionate about your family. You're passionate about CrossFit. So basically, the last thing we have here is, we have young, middle-aged, and older entrepreneurs listening to this video, or will be listening to this video, and you've been in the trenches. You have a business. You have 6 kids. I only have 2, and so it puts things in context for me. And a successful marriage, and all these things. So, what's one piece of advice you could give to somebody out there that's has a great idea, that's sitting on the sidelines, that's that fear is keeping them from taking action?
I would say just don't be afraid of failure. Don't be afraid to follow your passion and get out there and put yourself out there. And if you're not familiar with that quote from Roosevelt, the critic, I'd encourage you to look it up and use that, as some motivation, because it's not the people out there that are going to judge you or going to critique you on what you're doing, but follow that passion, and don't look back 10 years from now, 20 years from now and say, man, what if I had done this? No. What if you did that? Know what the outcome was. Know, and just kind of be in control of that. And don't be afraid of failure, and just follow that passion and live it out, because that passion that you're given, I believe, is a gift from God, and you should follow that passion and let it develop and let it flourish, and bring honor and praise for that, and just
I agree. I believe that's put in us. I think we all have something in us, a passion, and I believe God puts that in us, and it's our duty, in a sense, to live a fulfilling life.
Absolutely.
To follow that, to answer that call, and to go out there and by doing that, you make the world such a better place.
Right.
And you think about the impact that the business is having on your life, and obviously a successful business has certain financial benefits, which is great. But the business that CrossFit Yuma, when you look at the mindset, and this is not just a commercial for CrossFit Yuma. I mean, there's other gyms in town too, but just go. Tuesday morning I went and worked out. I got up, I did the 5:30 class, and I came out of there absolutely fired up, and just like ready to just crush the day. Yeah. And you think about the accumulative effect of how many students that go there, that do that come out there with that same mindset, and that go out and take action, and what impact that has on this community. That's huge. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. And one thing I'd like to say, add to that too, is, we talked about the mental aspect and kind of building that mental toughness. And I have a friend that was trying to accomplish something very difficult, and he didn't succeed the first couple times, and I was talking to him about it, and he told me, he said, I tell my kids that they can do anything they set their mind to, that they can go out and achieve anything they set their mind to. And he said, if I don't try this again, then I feel like I'm failing, like I'm giving up. Like everything I said to my kids wasn't true. And I look at that, and in the context of this and this kind of mental toughness, that, you know, the moment you kind of give up on yourself is the point where I think you failed. Mm-hmm. Not that it didn't reach where it should have, or it didn't turn out the way you wanted, but when you listen to those voices and you don't try because you're afraid of what'll happen, or you don't put yourself out there, you know, think of those times. So many people tell their kids, you can grow up and be whatever you want. Mm-hmm. Whatever you set your mind to, you can achieve. And then as we get older, we talk ourselves out of that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, we're running a little long. Thank you so much for staying with us. But we're going to do a bonus round on our next video, because I want to pick Joey's brain a little bit. And here's a little bit of what we're going to do. I've never done CrossFit before. Okay. I've ran marathons. I've done different workouts. Never done CrossFit. So I want to pick your brain in this next bonus episode. So thank you so much for joining our program. Keep the comments coming, and we will see you next week.
Yeah. Please like and share. Please spread the message. Just spread and share this on your page. Thanks, guys. Thanks.